Shavua Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi, Masechet Bava Metzia. We are up to Parakeh Mishnah Tet. Today's Mishnah should be Le'ilun Nishmat, Neria ben Svetlana, Ranbai, Veliyahu ben Burcha Israelov, Chana ben Miriam, Sason ben Raya, and Yehoshua ben Shifra, Menuchatam began Eden, Amen, and Avdi ben Chaim lechaim, with the Refuah Shelemav, Daniel Shalom ben Rosa, Betoch Shachol Israel, and the Achlama Mera Binyamin Od Zion Chai ben Dvorah. The Mishnah now teaches the basic prohibition of lending a se'ah for a se'ah. Lo yomar adam lechavero, a person may not say to his friend, Halveni kol chitim, lend me a core of wheat, v'ani eten lech lagoren, and I will give you back a core of wheat at threshing time, meaning when the crop has been harvested and the stalks have been threshed to separate the kernels from them. In other words, when the new crop has been made into grain. You cannot tell him, lend me a core of wheat, and I'll give you back a core of wheat, when the new crop has been made into grain. The rabbis forbid this due to a concern that the price of wheat might be higher when he is ready to repay the loan, so that giving back a se'ah of wheat would mean that the borrower is giving back something worth more than he borrowed. The Mishnah speaks about a loan of wheat that is supposed to be repaid at threshing time, because it is unusual for wheat to be more expensive at threshing time when a lot of new wheat comes to market than at planting time. The Mishnah teaches that even so it is forbidden to lend a se'ah for a se'ah. The Mishnah teaches that there is a type of se'ah for se'ah loan that is subject to a dispute between Tanaim. Aval omer lo, however, one may say to his friend, Halveni ad shevo b'ni, lend me wheat until my son who has my wheat comes, or ad she'emtzam maftech, or lend me wheat until I find the key to my granary so I can open it and repay you with the wheat I have inside. The rabbis did not forbid lending a se'ah for a se'ah if the borrower has the same item in storage, but he simply cannot get to it at that moment. This is because we consider it as if the lender immediately acquired the se'ah that the borrower has in storage. Therefore, even if he does not actually take it until the price has gone up, it is not interest. He simply gained money on produce that already, quote-unquote, belonged to him. Hillel, however, forbids making the loan, even when the borrower has the type of item he is borrowing. In his opinion, the rabbis prohibited lending a se'ah for a se'ah in all circumstances. The Mishnah discusses another case of a se'ah for se'ah loan, which is also subject to a dispute between Hillel and the sages. Hillel would also say, Lo talvei isha kikar lechaverta had sheta'asenu damim. A woman may not lend a loaf of bread to her friend until she makes the loaf into a loan of money, meaning until she fixes a price for the loaf and tells the friend to pay her back the value of the loaf she borrowed. Shema yokiru chitim. This is because we are concerned that the price of wheat might go up, and these women will end up having done a loan with interest, since the borrower will be repaying something worth more than she borrowed. The sages, however, permit lending a loaf for a loaf because it is something small, and any change in price is likely to be so small as to be considered a gift rather than interest given for the loan. Neighbors are not usually particular with each other about very small sums of money. A woman might well give such a small sum of money to her neighbor even if it had not been for the loan. However, Hillel is concerned that people are sometimes particular even over such small loans. And the Rav tells us, the halakha does not follow the opinion of Hillel, rather the halakha follows the opinion of the sages. And that is then of Mishnah Hey. Now, the previous two Mishnayot have dealt with the prohibition of lending an item, for example, a se'ah for a se'ah. Mishnah Yud now discusses doing work in return for work, meaning agreeing to work for a person now on condition that he will later work for you. The Mishnah begins, Omer Adam lechavero, a person may say to his friend, Nakesh imi v'nakesh imach, weed my field with me today, and I will weed your field with you tomorrow. Ador imi ve'edor imach, or hoe my field with me today, and I will hoe your field with you tomorrow. Although one person is lending the other day of work, he is being paid back with the same type of work, so there's no problem of interest. We are not concerned that the work done by the second person might be harder than that done by the first person and be considered a form of interest. We're not concerned for that. V'lo yomar lo, but he may not say to him, Nakesh imi ve'edor imach, weed with me today and I will hoe with you tomorrow. Ador imi v'nakesh imach, or hoe with me today and I will weed with you tomorrow. The person working on the second day may not repay the quote-unquote loan with a different type of work because it might be harder and therefore more valuable than the work done for him, and that is a rabbinically forbidden form of interest. The Mishnah teaches that it is sometimes forbidden for the two workers to arrange to do even the same type of work for each other. Kol yemei garid echad, all the days of the dry earth season, summer, are viewed as one period, and a person may work for another person on a summer day on condition that he will do the same type of work for him on a different day in the summer. Work in the fields was done from sunrise to sunset. Nevertheless, we are not concerned that the day he gives back Again, work in the fields was done from sunrise to sunset. Nevertheless, we are not concerned that the day he gives back may be longer or may be hotter than the day he worked. Workers were paid by the day, and small differences in time or temperature did not change the wages they were paid for a day in that season. Similarly, all the days of the rainy season, winter, are viewed as one period, and a person may work for another person on a winter day on condition that the second person will do the same type of work for him on a different day during the winter, even though that day might be longer or might have harsher weather conditions than the first person's day of work. Lo yomar lo, but a person may not say to another person, Chaoshimi bagarid, plow with me during the dry earth season, Vani echaresh imach birvia, Vani echaresh imach birvia, and I will plow with you during the rainy season. He cannot say this because working the field is clearly more difficult in the rainy season when the soil is wet and muddy than in the dry season. In this case, the second worker would be repaying the first with something more valuable than he quote-unquote loaned. It is permitted, however, to arrange that the first person will work in the winter and the second will do the same work in the summer. Since it is easier to work the fields in the summer, the second worker will be repaying with something less valuable than he was quote-unquote loaned. Now, the various types of forbidden interest we have learned about in this chapter are all forms of interest that are paid between the time of the loan and the time it is repaid, or together with the repayment. The Mishnah will now teach that interest is forbidden even if it is paid before the loan is given, or if it is given freely after the loan has been repaid. Rabban Gamliel says, Yesh ribit mukdemet, there is a prohibition on paying early interest, Yesh ribit meucheret, and there is also a prohibition on paying late interest. Early interest and late interest are forbidden only by rabbinic law. Biblical law forbids only interest charged at the time of the loan. Kitzad, how so? How do you have early interest and late interest? If someone has set his mind on borrowing from another person, and he sends them gifts and says, these are for you, so that you will lend me money, that is early interest and is forbidden. If he borrowed from him and already gave him back his money, and he later sent them gifts and said, this is to compensate you for your money that was not being used by you, while it was by me. This is late interest and is too forbidden. Another form of forbidden interest, Rabbi Shimon says, there's a prohibition of interest even with words, meaning the borrower may not even say something to the lender that will benefit him. How so? Lo yomar lo, you should not say to him, Da ki ba ish ploni mimakom ploni, you should know that so-and-so is coming from such and such a place if the lender needs this information. This is forbidden only if the borrower would not have given the lender this information had it not been for the loan, but if he was friendly with the lender and in the habit of sharing such information with him, it is permitted. Now there is a question whether this interest is rabbinically forbidden or even biblically forbidden if it was made as a condition of the loan. It is also forbidden for a borrower to greet the lender when he meets him if he was not in the habit of doing this before the loan, as the Gemara mentions in Metzia, page 75b, and Shulchan Aruch in Yoredea, chapter 160, Halacha 11. And that is an Abotai of today's Mishna Yomi. Everybody should have a Shavua Tov. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.